May of 2008, the Lord had me speak with John Kilpatrick in his church in Alabama. The first time I spoke publicly about it, probably, I think, if my recollection is right, in anything more than just momentary references to this type of thing. I began speaking about it in 1981. Some of the things the Lord showed me. Then, beginning in 2007, the Lord began to stir me again and say, I want you to start talking about the last days. I want you to start talking about things that are going to come. I want you to start talking about what happens when I begin to lift my hand off of a nation or off of a people, and what happens as a result of sin, how the earth begins to respond to a lack of righteousness and respond to sin, and why the earth groans in Romans 8 when for the manifestation of the sons of God, the righteous people who have a place that is full of righteousness. Their heart is full of righteousness and not full of their own desires. So I began to do that in May of 2008 and began to tell things that were happening. And it has been phenomenal. I saw one of the things that I talked about was a tsunami that was going to hit both coasts. One was going to hit the East Coast, and one was going to hit the West Coast. And I talked a little bit about that. And so Essen, I guess it's E-S-I-N, Essen, from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, asks, has the Lord showed you anything about tsunamis hitting the East Coast in the near future? No, I don't know anything about timing. I don't know about the near future. I do know there is one coming from an unusual event, which I probably shouldn't even have said that, but there is one coming. What I saw hit New York City. I'm not sure how far south down the East Coast it came, so I'm not sure whether it hits the Myrtle Beach area or not. I just saw it hitting New York City, and obviously somewhere south of there and north of there was hit as well. And then I saw one coming to the West Coast and hitting LA, and several of the buildings that were 7 to 10 stories tall were underwater. So I know it'll be a fairly large tsunami when it comes. Okay? Concerning the perfect storm, here's another question that was asked regarding the perfect storm, and that was this. Shirley from Garland, Texas asks, recently I heard your first interview, which was on KVTT in the early 80s. Oh, my land. It was actually August 1981. So I can't believe you saw that. I mean, I thought I had the only remaining tape, because it was cassette tapes at the time. Literally, from that broadcast, about 20,000 cassette tapes were sent out, and it overwhelmed the radio station at that time, which is KVTT here in the Dallas area. That actually happened because Ruth Ward Heflin came from Israel to challenge a young man who was running from a call of God on his life in a 3-day radio broadcast for 2 hours a day for 3 days on dreams and visions. And without me knowing it, I happened to have been that young man. Of course, I was young then. So she asked, she heard about the riots that I spoke of that were coming to the world and to the United States. And so she asked me if these were the riots that I spoke of. And so, yes, I just will tell you, Shirley, these are the riots that I spoke of. They're going to get worse in the United States. Some of the places that I saw these mobs coming was Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Atlanta, Detroit, St. Louis, L.A., and Chicago. And I particularly remember this issue of I saw, seemed like an unusual amount of blood in St. Louis. And so these riots are going to get very, 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 very difficult. And I remember talking and saying, and I've said since, I think even in the Coming Perfect Storm video, as well as in the PDF booklet that we've released with that it would start out looking like it was, some people might say it was racial, but it would actually end up being more economic driven. And so some of the things we've been hearing about this as the interview, especially in London and in Greece. Greece was certainly economic driven. London, a lot of the young people are saying, and these are like 15 to 18-year-olds, are saying, well, we're just let me see what I've got. We're giving the rich what they deserve, is what one person said. And it's like Robin Hood. We take from the rich and we give to the poor. And we're the poor, so we're taking from the rich and we give to ourselves. What will happen is that will escalate, not just in London and not just in Athens and not just here, not just in one or two cities in the United States. It's going to be broad. And the cities that I just mentioned are not the only cities that are going to experience this at all. There are other cities that are going to experience it. It's going to be broad, and as the economic system continues to experience turmoil, as it continues to become even more sluggish than it is right now, we're going to see that type of thing happening. And it grieves me that some of our politicians are actually seemingly escalating a class warfare mentality of we're going to take from the rich, because that is exactly what I saw people saying in 1980. Well, it was before 1981. When I spoke it in 1981, I saw them saying this, and I saw very well-off neighborhoods burnt to the ground, and all that was standing were in some houses, some were just the chimneys, the stone chimneys that were left standing of huge houses because of the riots and the mobs that swept through. I saw entire malls emptied of people, but also emptied of product, and the product is scattered everywhere as people would drop it, because they would carry out armloads in malls, and they would drop the stuff in the malls as they were running to the car. So this is going to escalate into true lawlessness. And then I saw martial law declared in many cities, and at one time, actually a couple of times or more, I saw martial law declared in the entirety of the United States, because it was so rampant that they had to call out the National Guard, and they had to call troops back from overseas in order to stem the issues that I saw. So that's happening right now. It's already, the ebb and flow of it has already begun, and the anger is just below the surface. And again, it's more economic driven, but some people will say it's race driven, but it really is more economic driven. There's a couple of things you ought to consider regarding the perfect storm. One is, what was the stock market and unemployment when I delivered the first perfect storm public message in May of 2008 at the conference hosted by John Kilpatrick. The Dow Jones was nearing historical heights at 13,000 or close to it. Today, it's just hard to tell what it's going to be today or tomorrow. Today, I think it ended up at like 11,000. Some 2,000 points down, but then yesterday it was 500-600 points even lower than that, and it will go lower than that. They're going to prop it up for a little while, so you just understand they're going to prop it up for a little while. Next year, it's even going to go lower. Unemployment rate was at 5.5% in May of 2008. Today, it's at 9.1%, and it will get to double digits before this is all over with in the next few years. In fact, it could hit double digits right around the election or shortly after the elections. Gold was at $880 an ounce when I said you need to buy gold because gold is going to go up. The Lord showed me gold was going up. It's going to dramatically escalate. It closed today at $1,764 an ounce. It has more than doubled the price since I spoke this in May of 2008. It will go even higher than that. Much, much, much higher than that. But here's my question. When I say that, there are how do I say this, Lord? There are men who want to discourage people from buying gold, and so they will cause the market to drop, and then they will cause the market to pick back up, so they then can buy gold themselves. So once it crosses $2,000 an ounce, and it will, be careful from that point on. If you buy gold, be prepared to keep it, no matter what the valley is. Be prepared to keep it. It will dramatically go down at one time. I mean, way down. But if you'll keep the gold, all will be well, because it will come back up to even more. It'll greatly exceed where it fell from. Okay. I talked to you about the Federal Agency for Youth Affairs, repatriatizing the youth, rearming, retooling, tooling up. Oh, on the Coming Perfect Storm, I talked about a conflict that would begin to happen with Putin and Medvedev, and that they would turn against each other, and that the internal squabbling would actually, in the end, allow a third party to arise. Well, that internal squabbling has begun to happen, and Putin is wanting to assume all authority over everything once again and force Medvedev out. That's the conflict, and it's the beginning of the conflict that I spoke about then. It's happening just as the Lord showed it to me. We're here in the United States, we're going to begin to, and elsewhere in the world, obviously, we're going to begin to face deeper and deeper bank problems. This will be complicated by a day when a cyber attack happens upon our banking system. So here's what I tell my staff, and I'm going to tell you as well. Make copies if not every week, every other week, of everything that you owe, meaning go online if you can. Most banks allow you to do that. Go online and print out a copy of anything you owe for your car, anything that you owe on your house, all the payments that you just made, because you're going to have to prove you made those payments. You don't want to have to make them twice. So just word to the wise, do that. The euro is going to fall. And I don't mean totally disappear off the face of the earth, but it's going to fall so significantly that there will be a new alliance formed, and that there's going to be corruption exposed, or something exposed with France and Germany, and you're going to see a new alliance that is formed by several countries in the European community right now. The European Union right now will leave that European Union and form another economic system. So begin to watch that. Begin to watch Turkey arise as well. And so we're almost out of time. Next ISD Live, we'll talk more about the coming perfect storm, answer some of your questions, angels, demons, and spirits. September the 8th, we'll be reading some of your experiences with God's Adjustment Bureau, and we'll be answering your questions from all around the world. So come back, and we will see all y'all September the 8th right here, John Paul's ISD Live. And it has been phenomenal. I saw one of the things that I talked about was a tsunami that was going to hit both coasts. One was going to hit the East Coast, and one was going to hit the West Coast. And I talked a little bit about that. And so to this type of thing, I began speaking about it in 1981. Some of the things the Lord showed me. Then, beginning in 2007, the Lord began to stir me again and say, I want you to start talking about the last days. I want you to start talking about things that are going to come. I want you to start talking about the sons of God, the righteous people who have a place that is full of righteousness. Their heart is full of righteousness and not full of their own desires. So I began to do that in May of 2008 and began to tell things that were happening, about what happens when I begin to lift my hand off of a nation or off of a people, and what happens as a result of sin, how the earth begins to respond to a lack of righteousness and respond to sin, and why the earth groans in Romans 8 for the manifestation of May of 2008. The Lord had me speak with John Patrick in his church in Alabama. The first time I spoke publicly about it, probably, I think, if my recollection is right, in anything more than just momentary references